Hi everyone, welcome back to Chimney's Chats with me, Amanda Nicely. Aasia, going back to basics, can you tell us a little bit more about the backstory to your journey? What inspired you to be a woman in business from an early age?
So it goes back to possibly when I was about 8 years old, really. So my father, he came into the country in the 60s. He worked on the buses, but he was a graduate. So he got a graduate job in 1971. He always mentions it. It's a month before you were born. Because I was born in January 72. He got into that job and he was doing it day in, day and night. And he just wanted to sort of progress more quickly, etc. And he had this vision of, taking on these news agents, etc. And he bought his first business in 1979. Because I was very young and I sort of grew up in this business, I became, at a very young age, his, support. I'd actually be working in the sweetie section, for example, weighing out all the sweets and putting them into little selections and putting them away. And so it started getting embedded into me, and I didn't realize at the time how these things.
So it's subliminal.
Subliminal, yeah, exactly. What you're doing day in, day out. Then hospitality, for example. My mum, as soon as you enter the house, everyone gets treated like royalty. They're looked after. They ask about what they want to eat and drink and make sure everything, is in a good spec. We used to use a tea cozy to go out on our teapots. And I remember when I was very young, about 12 or 13, and my auntie said, and I presented somebody with tea and I put it all down in the space, and she said, "Oh my goodness, I've never seen anyone that young actually present tea so well." And when I look back at all of those times, it sort of makes me realise actually it was all along part of me. I just didn't realise until very much later on.
Yeah.
During school, we had this 1 week of work experience working in an office, and I absolutely hated it. And I thought, I couldn't ever work for anyone, can I really? I thought, okay, well, I'll have to in the future, not still realising that's they're probably going to go down the business route. And then by chance, moving forward, when I was about 20, I was in a position where I was married. I was expecting twins. And it came about as, what do I do at that point in time? And the business element just came rushing to me at that point. Okay, I could open a business. I could run this so I can raise my own children and my own family alongside it. So in the beginning, it was more about, just keep going sort of thing and having a business and that thing. But later on, as soon as my children were growing up, I realised I actually want to go more into hospitality. I actually want to create a much more bigger meaning to business and to my life and to my children's future as well. So it was like a calling that and I just probably enjoyed it, I think.
It's a way of life for you.
For me, it's a way of life. Exactly. I day in, day out, whether I'm on holiday, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's a part of me.
Aasia, can I just ask you something I've always wanted to know? What has made you base your brand around the bygone era of railways? What interested you about that time?
Well, in a way, we sort of fell into it by chance. So we opened the first retail unit in railway station in 2002. And I got to sort of really love how the railways work and what happens to, how people commute and go backwards and forwards and that sort of thing. So moving a few years on from there, I wanted to create a food and drink brand and go down a different route to retail. I ended up going into Birmingham Wall Street Station, which had just been restored to its former glory. And as soon as I entered that station, it was like entering a bygone period. It's so beautifully restored. It's in fact, it's on the doorstep of bullring and Selfridges, etc.
Yeah.
But it feels like as if you're entering a different period altogether. So you walk in, this is gorgeous building, just restored. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I can see myself being here.
Yeah.
I'd love this. With Chiltern Railway's commercial director, Ian Baxter, he then sort of guided me about what Great Western Railway did back in the 1930s, how about the Art Deco period, the refreshment rooms. And I just fell in love with the whole idea and the whole concept and creating that experience for the customers, which had been forgotten.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with trying to restore that, back into our daily lives in some shape or form. And it was getting a glimpse of, so when people come into our Centenary Lounge, they almost sort of enter a period that we've sort of
almost lost and forgotten, because I must admit I've visited most of your sites, as you know. They're very, very elegant, and I think we've lost that elegance, and of course your venues, they bring that back in a little way.
They do, and it's part of a journey, because we go back in the 1930s, people dressed up going on to a train journey, so they'll dress up with the luggage in hand, go get to a station, have a refreshment. It was part of their, like I said, like the journey, and it's an experience that they looked forward to. And in the 1930s, especially with the Art Deco interiors, it was made for people to actually indulge in that downtime a little bit before they got on the train, and again that was another experience, and they get off the train and get another experience before they actually get to where they needed to get to,
and also be seen. It was somewhere to be seen, wasn't it?
Yes,
to be social, to have a drink before the journey or after the journey or whatever. So I think that's lovely that you've brought that back into this point of time.
So that was it realistically. So that's how it all sort of started off. I really, really fell in love with the whole thing, and I thought, okay, this is something I really want to create. So I did a lot of research, going back into buildings such as so Leamington was still there, but it had been covered up by another brand, so to speak, but he wasn't showing it off to its best potential. But I could have a look, glimpse through the panels, etc., just to get the detail of what I would, what was the Great Western, styling there, the interiors like, and get the marquetry detail and all of that, and then I sort of encompassed and put that into Moore Street Station. So Moore Street Station was very much sort of inspired.
Yeah, the first one.
Yes.
Yeah. But can I just ask, and that leads nicely into what obstacles have you faced, and how have you overcome them? Because there must have been some along the way.
I mean, that's such a big question, isn't it? There's just so many obstacles. There's always, even learning about food and drink and hospitality, even though it's not something. It's something that we did at home, for example. But my background is more retail. Yeah. So even finding, I think training other people, for example, was a big thing. How they see hospitality and how I see hospitality was completely different.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'd love to sort of make sure that all my customers are treated as if they entered my home. They're looked after. And a lot of people still say that when you're there, it's a different experience.
Yeah.
And then trying to embed that into our teams and into our culture, that obviously takes time. So that could be wouldn't be an obstacle, but it was a challenge. So to speak.
Being a woman in business, is that something that was a little bit challenging at first?
I think it was probably a little bit daunting just because I hadn't sort of ventured out on my own before. I did a lot of things with my husband prior to this. But this time I was actually taking the reins, so to speak, and finding myself. And what I wanted to do, etc. So even going down to the banks and getting loans, etc., I realised what a big challenge it was if you're a woman on your own. getting the funding, for example. There's everything was sort of stepped, and if you always have to prove yourself to then get the next round of funding or the next sort of level of support from anywhere else. And there was a lot of proving, which I didn't sort of find that from my dad's and my husband's side of things. When they were alongside me, they sort of spoke, and it was done, really.
Where is it as if you were almost not taken serious enough?
Yes, yeah. And didn't have the confidence, I'm guessing, in a woman, whether she's actually going to, really take that forward. And is this just a short-term romance, so to speak?
Yes, yeah.
With a venture.
And she'll get bored with it type of thing.
Yes. Yeah. And is she actually going to pull this through? And is she actually going to do this? So you almost have to prove yourself again and again and again until you get to the stage where they go, okay, actually, she's serious.
This woman means business.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Brilliant. Can I just ask you as well, is there anything that you would have done differently? Or is there anything at all that you'd like to change looking back?
I mean, in hindsight, you can say a lot of things. Yes, I'd like to change this. But then I wouldn't have had this experience. This wouldn't have been my journey. It would have been a different journey. But then I would have had different other problems.
Yeah.
So you've got to sort of think about it. Nothing's really that sort of simple or straightforward. There's always challenges. There's always something that's going to demand your attention and focus and different way of thinking. It's all a process. It's a learning process, and just lean into the process. Learn as much as you possibly can, realistically. Yes, possibly back in, for example, just when COVID hit, there was one time where I thought, why on earth did I open Worcester literally a year before? Because we've invested all our money into there, all our money was tied up, and then suddenly COVID hits, money's tied up, business hasn't picked up to where it wanted to pick up. It's only been 10 months. It needed another year or two to actually get there. And suddenly it all stops. And then I'd taken a big risk, putting my investment into there. Being the main breadwinner in the family, it really, really sort of made me start thinking and doubting myself at my judgment.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, if you look back at it, there was no sign. How was I supposed to know?
Yeah.
Literally, how was I supposed to know?
And I don't think you'd have been on your own in that situation.
No. And it was really crazy because if you look at it, we looked at our financial year, I thought, if I just stuck it out 3 more months and had it after July, then, even after July, this wouldn't have happened. I still would have had a good clear enough 2009 in an accounting and that sort of thing. But it really sort of, got me thinking about it. But, you do that for a while, you beat yourself up and then you think, hang on a minute, you didn't know. You did the best you possibly could.
Yeah.
If anything, you learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's fine. So I wouldn't change anything. Everything happens for a reason.
For a reason, exactly.
Like my daughter says.
Yeah. And fate is a great
exactly.
thing. Yeah.
She has it tattooed on her arm.
Oh, okay. As you do.
As you do.
So what's been your greatest moment, or as your greatest moment to come?
I think the greatest moment I'm in at the moment. It's coming out of COVID, we came out stronger. We learned so much. We developed an online platform. We did a lot more hampers. We engaged with people in a way that we hadn't done before, actually gone to them, to their homes with the afternoon tea boxes, etc. People got to know what we did. They actually came back then to experience us in store when we reopened. That was really, really good, and in a way, probably great marketing. But at a time when we were completely sort of closed down during the lockdowns, etc., or when we opened with restrictions, it still wasn't exactly a free flow. You still had to learn and adjust and see what you could do. But that was. So we sort of came back stronger as soon as we came out of COVID. I had sort of allowed myself another sort of 12 months before we start to progress with our franchise journey and other stores and that sort of thing. But then Leamington just happened.
Tell us more about Leamington.
Yeah. So Leamington, I've got a bit of a love affair with Leamington. So it all started from there with all the original interiors, replicating them, putting them into Birmingham Moore Street. And then that site became available, which I didn't ever think it would become available. And it did just after COVID. So when Chiltern Railways approached and said, it's come available, would you like to, take this opportunity on? It was a no-brainer. So I took it on. I said yes. So as normal, I just sort of jump straight in, literally, with both feet in. So we had to make it work. I knew we were just coming out of COVID, and the accountant said to keep things smooth and straight and on the narrow for the next 12 months. And no, I didn't do any of that. As you do. Yes, so in the end, I went straight in opened up Leamington, really. Got it restored back to its former glory. I absolutely loved doing that project.
Yeah, it's a beautiful station.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And covering a lot of the original detail, whether it was the flooring, the panelling, or the fireplace.
The fireplace that you found. Yeah, the window at the back that was covered up. And now all the light comes flooding through.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I was just completely in love with the place. I still am.
Great.
Yeah. So it all started from there. We got it up and running. We only had like 4 weeks to actually restore the place before we opened for the Commonwealth Games. So it was a very tight schedule. So we did quite a lot in a very short space of time. But I think I had all this energy sort of bottled up during COVID, and I had to spend it somewhere. So thank you, Chiltern Railways, handed that to me.
So Aasia, what are your plans for the future?
So during COVID, we did a lot of work behind the scenes, setting up the franchise agreements, etc. Also working along with a consultant and getting a bit of an insight as to what we need to be doing to get the concept to where it needs to be. So we did quite a lot of it in the background, and it's already there, sort of ready to go. But I knew that coming out of COVID and all the things that I'd learned since then, and how I saw the Centenary Lounge in the future, that it needed some refinement. So we've spent our time in the last sort of 12 months or so opening new places. So we opened Leamington, then Bicester, and then Solihull just last month. And then refining the concept as well as to how it looks, because now we've got essentially 2 concepts. And how each one of them look and differ and also come together at some points as well. So that was very, very important. So we've done all of that. And the next step is to franchise. So that is my dream. But I needed to be ready. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I think it's probably not great. It's great to have, but at the same time, you can delay things so much, and then in the end, you think, "Oh, why are you just doing it?" And it's because I need everything to be perfect. I can't control everything, but I'll try and get it to a stage where it's good enough. Get
your fundamentals in place, and
yes,
then okay,
it's good enough, and good fundamentals, exactly. The operations and the systems and that need to be in place. That basically make sure that the machine runs seamlessly, basically, so to speak. Obviously, there's always issues, and you just have to go along and correct them as you go along.
That's life, Aasia.
And that is it.
That is. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think you've got really exciting things still to come, and we'd love to hear and chat about them again sometime. So thanks very much, Aasia. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks.
I really hope you've liked this episode, and there'll be plenty more to come. If you have, please like and share on our socials, or simply just visit our website. And if you're interested in featuring on one of our podcasts, or potentially hosting your own, call us here at Lawrence Davis on 01782 26 4400. Thanks for your time, and chat again soon.